Does your lighting look like this? Or this? Or this? Would you like it to look like this? Or this? Keep watching to find out how to make this happen.
Before I reveal the good lighting techniques, I want you to understand why bad lighting is so common. The reason is that people make certain lighting mistakes. I myself made these mistakes until last year. I have since ascended to a higher plane of luminary consciousness. Many people like sunlight. When producing video, they often sit by a window that lets sunlight in. If the window is behind the subject is backlit, resulting in the unpleasant visual to which I am subjecting you now. The window and the light coming in it are much more visually prominent than the handsome subject. Avoid backlighting. Your viewers will thank you. The second mistake that people make when recording video, or taking photos for that matter, is to bathe the subject in harsh overhead sunlight. This direct sunlight results in overexposure of certain parts of the composition and underexposure of other parts of the composition. If the subject is, like me, extremely light sensitive, squinting results. Avoid direct sunlight. Your viewers will thank you. The third mistake that people make when recording video is to rely on indoor overhead lighting. These lights are typically in the ceiling. The problems with overhead lighting are similar to those of backlighting and direct sunlight. Parts of the subject are overexposed. Parts of the subject are underexposed. Avoid indoor overhead lighting. Your viewers will thank you. What's the solution? I will describe two. One is easy to achieve. The other requires more effort. Sunlight is not inherently bad. Sunlight makes plants grow, and some people eat plants. Sunlight can be the basis for good video lighting, but the sunlight must be diffuse. By diffuse, I mean that no photons that have traveled directly from the sun are allowed. All photons in the shot must bounce off something before entering the camera. Reflected sunlight looks great. There are two ways to get reflected or diffuse sunlight only. One way is to record in a place that's completely shaded, as I'm doing now. Here is an indoor space with diffuse sunlight. The other way to achieve diffuse sunlight is to record outdoors near dusk or dawn. Photographers call these times of day the magic hour and prefer to shoot during them because of the excellent lighting conditions. By way of example, here is a photo that a professional photographer took at dusk of my son's stuffed animal. The obvious drawback to recording outside is environmental noise. When I was recording my video course, iOS Expert, outside, leaf blowers often prevented me from recording. Right now I'm using a chainsaw to simulate the sound of a leaf blower. The video you're watching is primarily about lighting, but here's a power move to mitigate the effects of environmental noise. Video editing software, for example Final Cut Pro, can remove a lot of environmental noise. I've cranked up Final Cut Pro's voice isolation feature to 100%, and you can no longer hear the chainsaw. I've talked about how to achieve good lighting using only the sun, but sometimes diffuse sunlight isn't available. I'll talk about two approaches to indoor lighting, one easy and one more challenging. The first approach is a ring light. That's what I'm using now. A ring light looks a lot better than built-in overhead lighting because the light is evenly distributed across the subject's face. A ring light might be a great option for you, but be aware of two drawbacks. One, if you wear glasses, a ring light will reflect off those, potentially distracting viewers from you and your message. Two, the visual effect produced by a ring light is, in my subjective view, visually boring. You may disagree. My visual aesthetic reflects my admiration for painters like Edgar Degas, who didn't use solitary ring lights. The second approach involves using a key light and fill light for primary lighting of the subject, with a practical light in the background to add visual interest. As you can see, my glasses don't reflect with this approach, except when I turn my head towards the ring light. As long as I don't turn my head, no reflection. This lighting is a lot more visually interesting. Here's how to set it up. The most important light in this setup is the key or primary light. Note that because it's not pointed directly at the subject, the camera doesn't get glasses reflections. Here's what the key light does by itself. Kinda cool, right? The dark shadows on one side of my face are admittedly a bit distracting. That's where the fill light comes in. The fill light plays a role similar to that of the key light, but it's typically a bit dimmer than the key light. Stronger lighting on one side of the subject than the other creates visual interest. Here is the fill light working in concert with the key light. The key light and fill light don't themselves appear on camera, but to spice up a shot, lighting ninjas often set up one or more lights that are visible in the background of the shot. This is called a practical light. A practical light can be a lamp, as in this diagram, but any light can act as a practical. The two criteria for practical lights are that they look cool and that they don't clash with or overpower key and fill lights. In my man cave, there is no space for a lamp, so I use a LIFX light strip as a practical. I have attempted to demonstrate good lighting techniques in some of this video, but seeing an even better result of application of these techniques might inspire you to apply them. Colin Late has graciously allowed me to share a screenshot from one of his videos. Link in the description. Colin's lighting is fantastic. The somewhat brighter light on this side of his face comes from a key light. The somewhat dimmer, but still prominent, light on this side of his face is from a fill light. This practical light in the background adds visual interest. That's it for how to achieve high-quality lighting. If you apply these tips, your light will look great. I don't claim to have said, in this video, everything there is to say about lighting, or, more generally, the aesthetics of video. To make your subject stand out against the background, you may want to consider using a rim light. Ben Johnson made a video about rim and other lights. Link in the description. I didn't demonstrate a rim light in my video, but the animals in the thumbnail did. Another contributor is composition, or how the subject is placed within the frame. Alexander Lyon and Carl Kwan made a video about composition and other subjects. Link in the description. If you want to look good on video, you also want to sound good. Watch this video to learn how to achieve high-quality audio.